Right, today we're doing another modification, and as you probably saw by the thumbnail, we're doing the Oxford Hot Grips Pro. These are new to me. Previously I've seen the other Hot Grips by Oxford, but usually you have to have a big square module on the handlebars or down on the frame, and I think that looks a little bit unneat. These new ones, which we'll take a look at in a moment, have a button on them to select the sort of temperature like I used to have on my old Triumph bike, and I think that's a hell of a lot neater, and I'm really looking forward to getting these on, because even though it's quite bright and sunny now in the middle of September, I went out yesterday and the day before in the rain and even in the dry, and it's getting cold already. So let's get going. Right, so let's take a look in the box then. Pretty simple, slides off, easy peasy, just like that, and then you get a preview of them just there. These are the sport ones. I think you can get an adventure style one as well, but I thought sport would look good, sort of the classic sort of look for the Bonneville. Box has a bit of information about the wiring loom, the sort of texture, bits and pieces on it, and also the grips and which way they go on. You obviously have a different size for each handlebar, one for the grip on the throttle side, and one for the other side as well. So here you've got the information sheet, I'm guessing instructions, a lot in there. You've got the wiring loom that plugs into it, that runs under the tank into the battery. Oh, what's this? A piece of super glue. I'm sure we'll work out what that's for in a moment. And then you have it looking a little bit messy because of my surface here, but the grips look absolutely brilliant. You've got the button there on one side with the Oxford logo there. Nice and soft sort of touch to it. Obviously you're going to have gloves on, but it's a good amount of grip. And even though obviously it's got a sort of sleeve in there, still not too thick, which is nice, sort of a right amount, just sort of perfect. Hopefully they go on nice and easily. And I think probably that's what the super glue is for, holding them on so they do stay on nice and tight. But yeah, take a look at that, looking absolutely great. Nice waterproof connectors there to go onto the loom. Let's get going.
So we're going to start off by removing the grip and the bar end from the left side. What I did was insert a Allen key, put some WD-40 in there and give it a bit of a swirl around, and then you finally will be able to get it off. Nice and easy on that side. Give it a bit of a clean up and we'll move over to the other one. Get that Oxford mirror off the right hand side. I had to do a sort of custom mount there, so I'm just going to undo that bolt, and that exposes the grip ready to come off. You can use the same method using a screwdriver, bit of WD-40, and then it just slips straight off. Give it a wipe. This grip actually has some plastic sort of grooves along the top of it to hold the previous grip on to stop it from slipping. This has to be ground down, as you can see. It's recommended you use either sandpaper or a file. I had a grinder to hand to make it a bit quicker, but as you can see in a moment, I will finish that off later by hand. There you go, there's the file now, getting all of them down there nice and flat. And I have to say, now looking back on this, you want to do it for a long time. You want to get nice and rounded. When you come to doing it yourself, you'll see it's actually a bit of trial and error. You want to get the grip, try and insert it, and if it's sticky and difficult to put on, then I would recommend carrying on. You definitely want it to be able to sort of slide on with sort of a bit of grip, but it doesn't want to be really tight, otherwise it can stick. You can see there I'm actually applying a bit of pressure. I would actually recommend going a little bit further with the sanding and also remove those ridges you can see, so you can go almost all the way up to the far left, which I did do later on. Warning to everybody, what you're about to see is me making a mistake. I didn't sand the grip down enough, and you can see me pouring loads of super glue on, and you're about to see me panic because I slip the grip on, it sticks, and the super glue starts to set, and then I stick my hand to the grip and then start to panic. Get hammers, get screwdrivers, stick my hand to the grip once again. So the moral of the story here is to make sure that the grip can slide on easily when the glue is on there. So let's continue. So once you have sanded it down properly, read the instructions nicely, and the grip can slide on and off, it's time to glue it down. Included is super glue, which can stick your hand to the grip very easily, but I actually, after that debacle, opted for a small smear of Gorilla Glue. I find it's a bit more flexible, a bit stronger. The super glue did actually disconnect from the sort of chrome bar on the other end when I was on my first ride, so I definitely would recommend a bit of Gorilla Glue, and it also doesn't set quite so quickly, meaning that you can slide them on a bit easier. Just a tip from me. So we're moving on to the other side now. I've got my grinder out again now just to give the chrome a bit of a key for the glue. I'm going to finish that off by hand with a bit of sandpaper and then clean it up with some brake cleaner. So now it's time to apply the glue of your choice to the grip and to the bar itself. This side is a bit easier because it is metal and plastic. It means it can slide down a bit easier, but I definitely still stick by my word and would use Gorilla Glue. There you go, looks good in position there. Make sure they're both even, and now it's time to move on to the wiring. Wiring is a bit of an overstatement really. It's more cable management and being able to take your tank off. What you need to do is route it down from the handlebars, below the tank and to the battery, and that's 2 connectors and you're done. Here I'm using cable ties to follow along the existing cables, making sure there's enough slack for the throttle. You don't need it on the left hand side, you just want it to look nice and neat. I've got quite chunky cable ties here, and since this I've actually put some thinner ones on, they look a lot neater. Go down with the current control cables and brake lines, and then it'll look really nice and neat. Remove the fuel tank, you can leave it connected on this bike, place it to the side, and now you just carry on doing the same thing, keeping it nice and neat, using cable ties down, and do just make sure that the positioning is correct and that the fuel tank won't crimp the wires as it's attached again. Make sure the handlebars can move freely so that the cables don't pull and they're not too tight. There they are in place underneath the tank there, nice and neat. Now it's time to follow the frame down towards the battery, keeping the management nice and neat, and when you actually get to the battery box, not having a big collection of spaghetti so that it's a fire hazard. Connect your tank back onto the bike, you don't need that removed anymore, and now it's time to remove the screws from the terminals on the battery and connect the wires from the heated grips. Since this video I've got a Moto bat which has 2 terminals for each positive and negative, which means it's nice and neat for all the accessories you have on, and I'll be using that from now on. And there you are, that was the final step. Don't they look good mounted? I love the look, having that single press button and an LED there to control both grips. You go from hot, medium to cool with just a press. You hold it down if you want to turn it off or on, and when you actually turn the bike off from running, it will detect that there's not enough voltage and it will start flashing green, which is protecting the battery, and will shut off.
So then, that's all done. Nice easy peasy install as you saw. There were a few things along the way that were a little bit more tricky than I expected. One was making sure that this side was sanded down nice and smooth before you get it on there. Also making sure to use the super glue right at the end once you know it all fits on. One other thing I would do is make sure you do a dry run, put the grips on, plug them in before you do anything, make sure they work once the engine's running, because they won't work without the engine running, which is great for battery, saving the battery so it doesn't go flat. Once you've got them all mounted up here, run them down, cable ties all the way along. Just make sure you just don't put them in the wrong position so that the tank can sit nicely down and doesn't short anything by nipping anything down, so be careful of that. Nice to keep it nice and neat. Plug it into the battery, and as you saw, they just come on. What I did was turn them on with the engine running, go and read the instructions to make sure I knew what I was doing, but when I came back after just a minute or so, they were hot already. Really comparable to my Triumph ones that I had built into my previous bike, and I'm really looking forward to getting them out there.
So I'm going to be completely honest with you, this footage was from back in the summer before I did a few of my upgrades. The grips aren't even on here, but I'm speaking to you from at least 5 or 6 rides in with the grips in the winter. It's currently raining right now and the temperatures are currently dropping. Coming from a Triumph Scrambler 1200 XC with built-in OEM grips, these heat-wise are as good if not better. The 3 settings are perfect: red, white and blue for hot, medium and cold. You can easily swap while you're in the go, and you don't accidentally press the button while you're riding, which is great. The quality of the grips, as you can see from the video, is on par with a genuine product. For example, like Triumph, I would say the look of them, as I went for the sport ones, are in keeping with the sort of classic look of the bike as much as you can. I'm glad that Oxford do give that option. It's a shame they have to put their logo and everything, but I get why. For me, these are the best looking ones, and I think they do look good on the bike as well. Just before we wrap up the video, I do just want to mention one thing which I have found a little bit of an issue, was my previous gloves, which I'm actually wearing here. Note they are very cheap ones. Felt quite slippery on the grips, almost like a silicone material that the grip was made of rather than a rubber. It wasn't really bad, but even in the dry I felt I was having to hold on a bit tighter, and it didn't really sort of lock in at all, and I would be worried at higher speeds. Out of the 4 gloves I have, these cheap leather ones, some expensive Half Arson's leather ones, those were both a little bit slippery I found on the grips, so I've moved on to sort of a more suede / rough leather. I've got 2 pairs of gloves like that, and they both grip in really nicely, so that is one thing to consider, and maybe that's something that Oxford will change in the future. There's the material, but the grip definitely feels a little bit more like a silicone than a complete rubber, but maybe it's something that needs to wear in. But I did try the previous model with the little screen, and this wasn't an issue, so it's interesting that. Take a note, and if you can get a chance to give them a hold in the shop, you can open the box really easily. Do try your gloves out, or move to a more sort of suede glove. All in all, I can definitely recommend these though. The fit and feel, quality of the grips, and most importantly the heat output is unbelievable. I would 100% recommend them on how much I've used them already, and it'll be interesting to see how they last in the future. But for now, I hope you've enjoyed this video. It's helped you on the install or on the decision of getting them yourself, and I hope I'll see you next time. Cheers.